Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All Krishna Prabhupada. I hope you all are well. Welcome you all to His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaja's daily class. Uh, Despite of his, having a long travels, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All Krishna Prabhupada. I hope you all are well. And
Me?
It's so nice to see you.
I'm well, but I fell in hell. And that's not very swell. If you stick around, I'll tell you what I'm supposed to tell.
Brilliant.
Better than ringing a bell.
I can't say anything.
I
But
know.
we'll stick around. We all of us will stick around you anyway to take us back.
Take you back. Don't be slack. I'll keep you on track.
Oh, thank you. Jai. So today's verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 2nd chapter, and verse number 23. So just give me a...
No.
No.
We're going to talk from the Satyabhama Samhita today. Okay.
Let me just increase it.
Close it. Om Gyan Timirandasya Ganajana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimukti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nevrase Sasunyavadi Pastyatya De Satarine Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhupe vacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimukti Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati iti namine Shri Varshavanavi Devi Daite Kribabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnanam Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ojwala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gauda Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Sri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virurapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauda Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Today is the divine appearance day of His Holiness Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj. And today we'll try to cover a little bit of some of the glories and activities of this great Mahapurush. At one point, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was praying that please send someone from your personal entourage into this world to preach the glories of the glorious Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Little did he know that prayer was answered by his own son, the fifth son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, was Sri. His name was Sri Varshavanavi Devi Dayati Dayata. He was named. What's his name at birth? It was Bimala Prasad. Bimala Prasad. And that boy was born, interesting, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife, Bhagavati Devi, fathered this boy who, when she came out, the cord that connects the mother to the child, it's called the umbilical cord. was wrapped around the baby like a Brahmin thread. That was the first indication of such this Mahapurush. Of course, during that time, he was born right around the same time as the Rath Yatra in Jagannath Puri. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was living in Jagannath Puri. He was one of the magistrates at the time, and also he was one of the pundits in Jagannath Puri temple. Actually, he not a pundit, but somebody who was managing the temple. When the child was born, everyone was shocked. So they took the baby, and the Rath Yatra was going on. And it just so happened that Jagannath, on his Rath cart, stopped right in front of the house of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his mother, Bhagavati Devi. She took the child out and placed him at the lotus feet of Jagannath. Jagannath is very big. He's about 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide. She put him at the feet of Jagannath to get the mercy, and Jagannath dropped his huge garland, and it encircled the child. And she told this to her husband, who wasn't there at the time, and then he understood the prayer that what he offered was answered in the form of his own son. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati was, of course, his name was Bhima Prasad at the time of birth. At the age of 4 years old, living with his parents in Jagannath Puri, there was a mango that was meant to be offered to the deity. And his 4-year-old child took the mango and he was eating it. And his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, was a little bit concerned that the child should learn that this is not right. And he said to his son, this mango was meant to be offered to the Lord, and you have taken it, so this is a great mistake on your part. He very mildly corrected him. Bhakti, who later became Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, he realized he had committed an offense. This was a 4-year-old child. And he vowed at that age never to take mango in his whole life. Now, he's living in India. There's the mango season, which usually begins in the month of May, June, and the mangoes are profuse. Everyone is buying mangoes, cooking mangoes, eating mangoes, preparing mangoes in different ways and eating it. It's usually a time where people absorb themselves in mango. And many times, not many, actually, a few times in his life, when some of his disciples would offer him a mango, he said, "I'm sorry, I cannot take, I'm an offender." So he followed that his whole life. He never took mango. Although, if you live outside of India, you think that's not so hard. But, well, if you live in India, it's a lot different. Where during those times, mango are very profusely available, and these mangoes in India are so sweet and so beautiful that it becomes a great treat to have a mango. But following that, there was no offense on the part of the child, but he accepted that he had deviated and he never took mango his whole life. His life was full of many, many interesting activities. As he was growing up, his father was also teaching him in different ways, and he was so quick to learn how to practice devotional service, or you might say Krishna consciousness. I'll read something from his life, which is also quite interesting. So he was the fifth son. Okay, I spoke that. At the age of 7, he memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita. At the age of 7, he had a photographic memory. When he went to school, he never read any school books. But he still got the highest grades in the class. And at the age of 7 also, his father gave him a deity of Kurma, and he worshipped that deity. At the age of 11, he's only 11 years old, he invented a kind of shorthand. A shorthand is a style of writing where you use certain codes to indicate the words. And he created his own style of shorthand called Vikanta. At the age of 7 also, his father gave him Tulsi beads and taught him to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and the Nrsimha Mantra. At the age of 16, he began to study his father's books and also began writing books on astrology. While he was in university, he formed one group called the August Assembly. Now, to join that group, you had to take a lifetime vow of celibacy. That was the qualification for joining the group. But it just so happened he was the only one in the whole group that followed that. 18, he entered college. He read all of the philosophical books in the library, and he became expert in all of the 6 branches of Vedic knowledge. At 21, his parents wanted to get him married, so he decided to leave school to avoid getting married. And that happened. And in the year 1897, he was born in the year 18, what was the, forgot the year, was born 1860 something, I can't remember. Anyway, he developed knowledge of astronomy and astrology, and he published works called the Surya Siddhanta. In 1898, his parents moved to Swananda Sukanda Kunj. There, he held discourses with Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji, that's Bhakti Vinod was, and Gorkishore Das Babaji would attend. His father wanted him to get initiated, and he showed him, this is your spiritual master. Gorkishore Das Babaji, you would come, and he would sit and listen to Bhakti Vinod Thakur's lecture. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur thought he would be the perfect spiritual master for my son. But Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj was not accepting any disciples. But he told him anyway, you should approach him. So he approached Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, and he asked him for initiation. And he said, come back and I'll let you know at another time. He came back. He said, I have to ask Mahaprabhu whether I can initiate you or not. So he came back and second time and he asked, did Mahaprabhu give his answer? And Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj said, I forgot to ask him. So come back again, third time. And then this time I'll ask him. So he came back the third time, hoping, praying. And did you ask Mahaprabhu? Yes. What did he say? He didn't answer. He cried. He was thinking, what is the use? Without entrance into spiritual life, then there's no purpose to human life. So he decided, what is the use of my existence? So he was going to commit suicide, and he was going to jump from one bridge. It just so happened Gorky Das Babaji was coming the other way, and he saw him. He said, "Stop. I was just testing you to see how eager you were for spiritual life." And so he received initiation from Gorky Das Babaji, and he was the only disciple. And he received the name Sri Varshabhanavi Devi Daita, which is a name refers to Srimati Radharani. His father, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, would give discourses, and one famous Babaji, at that time Radharaman Charan Das Babaji, he was famous. He had a following, and he would chant this one mantra, Bhaja Nitai Gaur Radhe Sham, Japa Hare Krishna Hare Ram, which was completely bogus. And he also said there's no need to chant out loud. You could chant silently, and he also dressed his followers up as gopis. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta opposed him strongly. I'm sorry, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta opposed him strongly. And of course, he defeated this so-called Babaji called Radharaman Charan Das Babaji. And then his reputation went down after being defeated. Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati compiled Vaishnava Encyclopedia, which were 4 great big volumes of work all about the Vaishnavas. From the year 1904 and 1905, he toured South India, collecting information on the rites and rules of Vedic Tridanda Vaishnava Sannyas. He received much pressure from followers of Radharaman Charan, and therefore his father encouraged him to go to the yoga pit. At the age of 31, when he was at the yoga pit, he stayed in a grass hut, and for 4 years he vowed to chant every day 300,000 names of the Lord. After 9 years, he finished 1 billion names. He was living you can see a picture, he's in this hut, and he's got an umbrella over his head, because during the rainy season, it would rain inside the hut, but he never stopped chanting for 9 years. He chanted 9 years straight. Later on, he built a cottage nearby. During the Chaturmasya, during that time, he'd cook rice dried in the sun with ghee, and he ate from the floor. He slept on the hard ground. By the year 1911, he had completed one book called Brahmins and Vaishnavas, and there was one group of Brahmanas who were challenging, saying that if you're born in the Brahmin family, you are the leader of society. And they were saying Brahmins are the topmost of all personalities in society. Bhakti Vinod Thakur wanted to defeat their argument, and so there was an arrangement for a debate on September 8th, 1911, in a place called Midnapur. And he was all ready to go, but Bhakti Vinod Thakur got rheumatic fever, and he was bedridden. He couldn't go. So then his son, Bhaktisiddhanta, had written his book. He said, I will go in your place. So he went. And it was interesting. He was the first one to speak. All the Brahmins were there. And he started to glorify the position. Anyone who's born in a Brahmin family is the topmost of all within society. And he was quoting verse after verse, glorifying the Brahmins, and the Brahmins were thinking, oh, he understands. But at one point in his lecture, he changed his whole, and then he started quoting verses showing that although one is born in a Brahmin family, if he's not a Vaishnava, he can't even save himself, what to speak of saving others. And then he started to quote verses to support that a Vaishnava is actually the topmost, because he can purify the whole society and bring them back to the spiritual world. And then during that debate, the Brahmins couldn't say anything. It was public, and the public got really enthusiastic to hear from this new sannyasi. At that time, he had taken sannyas. He had initiated it. No, actually, he wasn't. He wasn't a sannyasi at that time. But he was so good at both the debate and the shastras that everyone there was amazed to see him. So the crowd got really enthusiastic to get the blessings of him. So during that debate, when the Brahmins were defeated, people all ran to touch his feet. But it was a mass rush from all of these people. So the police were there, they stopped all the people. And they decided to take him in the back, and they washed his feet, and they threw all the water on the crowd. Like that. So there was many other stories. In the year 1914, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his father, left the planet. In the year 1915, less than a year later, the spiritual master left the planet. He was all alone to continue to fight against what we call Sahajiyam, for people who claim to be followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At that time, there were many groups. The Owl, Baul, Shakiveti, Gornagari, Nityanam Vamsa, 13 Upper Sampradaya groups. And he was all alone, so he got the mantras from the Sri Sampradaya, and he initiated himself into the sannyas order. There was no one to give him sannyas, so he took the liberty of doing it himself. And then he received the name Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. He was known as the Lion Guru. He would preach very strongly against irreligion in the name of religion. At that time, it was going on very strong. And they were becoming very much prominent in society. But Bhaktisiddhanta was preaching strongly against him, and he was also gaining much popularity. At one point, these Apasiddhanta groups, they hired some dacoits to take his life. And they went to the police, and they say, we will do something against Bhaktisiddhanta. You don't do anything towards us, and we'll give you 25,000 rupees. Of course, the police said, we normally accept such things, but for a saintly person, we cannot do it. And then the police officer went to Bhaktisiddhanta and said, take care, there are some people who are out to destroy you. So that was, it was successful and to keep his preaching going. He would speak very strongly against anything that wasn't pure devotional service. And at that time, he was taking disciples. And many of his disciples were a little bit concerned that Guru Maharaj is preaching very strongly, and this is not good. We cannot make disciples because people are not coming forward because of his strong preaching. He wasn't compromising in any way. But Prabhupada, our Prabhupada would say, those who criticized him, they fell down from their devotional service. In 1912, going back a little bit, he was invited by a great person, Maharaj Mani Mandra Chandra, to talk on Krishna. And they were asked there's some Prakrita Sahajas there. When he saw that the audience, he refused to preach, and then he also refused prasadam for 4 days. On the 5th day, when he was preaching, he accepted a tulsi leaf, and he was shouted down by these Prakriti Sahajas. And then he left. The king, that was King Maharaj Manindra Chandra, was very concerned and followed him all the way to the train as he was leaving in a disgust because of these presence of these Prakriti Sahajas. Prakrita Sahaja is one who takes things cheaply. And they think that they make some sentimental ideas on how bhakti works. There's no qualification for executing bhakti. In other words, you just have to prove that you have so much love for God by rolling on the ground and shouting loudly. So there were so many of these groups. Even today, you see so many persons who appear to be people who represent spirituality, who have no understanding of spirituality, who are there to gain followers, to gain some pecuniary benefits, and make themselves popular amongst people who are ignorant. Even today, it's still going on. Genuine spirituality is hard to find, but it's coming from Krishna through the disciplic succession, down through the personality of God who appears in that disciplic succession, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In June, actually June 22nd, 1914, Bhakti Vinod. I mentioned that he left the world. The following year, November 17th, his spiritual Gorky Shore also left the world. Bhaktisiddhanta was feeling a little bit lost, both of his father and his spiritual master. In one sense, two spiritual masters had left the world. And one night he had a dream. In the dream, Bhaktisiddhanta appeared to him along with others and said, "We are with you. Just preach Krishna consciousness. We are with you." In the year 1914, Kunja Bihari Vidyabhushan became attracted. He later became Bhakti Vidya Tirtha Swami. He arranged programs. And he got one house for Bhaktisiddhanta to live and to have programs. That was now the famous Uta Dunga Junction Road, where His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada met Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati for the first time. That was in the year 1922. I mentioned he took sannyas, that was at the age of 44. From the year 1918 to the 1922, his preaching began to develop. That's when our Srila Prabhupada met him in 1922. In 1923, he set up a Gaudiya printing work in Calcutta with translation word for word purports on the Srimad Bhagavatam. In 23, he built a temple honoring the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas. In 1924, he spoke a famous presentation called Being Humbler Than the Blade of Grass. he was explaining how here I am sitting in front of all of you, and I'm addressing you as a person who now is in the position to lead you. But what is my qualifications? And it's a very interesting, it's called Being Humbler Than a Blade of Grass. I'll read from that later on. I have a copy. We can, he explains how it's a duty to take the position of a preacher, but people will criticize and saying, look, people are offering him garland and speaking his eulogies, falling at his feet. Obviously, he's feeling very pleased within his own heart. Just see, he's no better than a big animal. But he said, even if the whole world criticizes me, still, to my service to the Supreme Lord and to my spiritual master, I'm willing to accept perdition, condemnation from others in order to do this service. 1921 to 1925, he had a regular circumambulance on Navadvip following the path of Lord Nityananda, who gave that same pathway to Jiva Goswami. 1925, he went on parikram with a huge crowd towards the Radha Govinda temple, and his group was attacked by rocks from others. And he spoke widely on topics of Varnashram at that time. He sent 2 sannyasis from his group to preach in Bengal and Bihar, Orissa, and other places. They opened temples in Nambisharanya and Mayapur. 1927, he started a newspaper called The Harmonist, Sajjana Toshini, which is a daily publication on the news from the spiritual world, as he would call it. In 1928, in Kurukshetra, on the solar eclipse, he preached to thousands while in an ecstatic mood and unveiled what we know now as the Diorama exposition, making little dolls of spiritual personalities in the form of Krishna's pastimes and inviting the public to see these pastimes in the form of these little, what we say, statues of the personalities. These are called a diorama exhibition. If you go to our temple in Detroit, that exhibition is nicely arranged. It's been there for the last 40 years. No, actually 50 years. There's a lot to his life. I'm just giving you a synopsis of some of the things. He met with governors, viceroys, kings, opened temples, did diorama. He was famous for organizing prasadam distribution. Whatever Lakshmi they would collect, he would organize a program, invite thousands and thousands of people, have pravachan, and distribute prasadam freely. He never charged for anything. He preached, gained money through the preaching, and then spent that money for prasadam distribution like that. In 1930, he preached in Jaipur, Kurukshetra, Simachalam, Kovor. 1931, he opened the Bhakti Vinod Institute in Mayapur, which is just recently gotten by our society, and we are fixing it up. It was a school in honor of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. We just got that school within the last year now. Now it's the property of ISKCON. He established deities, the Alarnath. That's a famous story. Alarnath is one Vishnu deity that was installed. This deity, Lord Chaitanya, during the Anavatsara, when Lord Jagannath would go into sickness for 2 weeks, right after he took his bath, the Snan Yatra, or yeah. And then he would go in seclusion. Jagannath he's sick, he's got a fever. And during that time, no one can see Jagannath. That's just before the Ratha Yatra. Lord Chaitanya, feeling separation from Jagannath, would go to Avanarth. There was one Vishnu deity that was there, and he would worship that deity during that time. Um, After a while, the whole place got in disrepair. So Bhaktisiddhanta, along with others, arranged to fix up the temple and the deity like that. And many of the workers weren't so enthusiastic to work. In fact, they were in one sense, but they would always stop to have a bidi. A bidi is a cigarette. So they would stop for smoking and then go back to work. And Bhaktisiddhanta was really concerned that the work is not going fast enough. So he would tell them, you continue to work and I'll roll your cigarettes for you. And he did. And that way the uh, activity went on more quickly. He sent preachers to Delhi, and he met one person called Lord Wellington. He delivered lectures on Bhagavatam at the place called Sukaratala, a place where Sukadeva Goswami spoke. 1932, he established deities in Madras, courses on Bhakti Shastra and Acharya, in 10 different subject matters. And he revised and corrected Professor Sannyas Narata, who gave a talk on narrations on Sri Krishna Chaitanya. It was a commentary. In 1932, from the month October, November, was the famous Mandala Parikram, 68-mile circumambulation of the whole area of Vrindavan. 18 sannyasis were with him. The caste Brahmins opposed him, and when they went to go to different temples, all of the different temples closed their doors. People were throwing rocks at them, but that didn't disturb him. He continued to go on. One temple allowed them to come in, and that is the same as famous Radharaman temple. Even today, we're welcomed in that temple. There's a lot to his life. On March 18th, he spoke with two students, one disciple, and preaching in Madras. Sripad Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj, who was a disciple of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Sripad Bhakti Hriday Bon Maharaj, and Sri Sambidhan Prabhu. They went to London, Germany, and France. They opened a small center in London, met the king and queen, and Lord Jetland, the famous story of Lord Jetland, who spoke to Ban Maharaj and said, "Can you make me a Brahmana?" Ban Maharaj said, "Yes." Lord Jetland said, "What do I have to do to become a Brahmin?" "You must follow these 4 principles: no illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling." And Lord Jetland replied, "Impossible. That is our life." So Prabhupada, when he speaks about that, he said, "I came to the Western countries, and I try to also present these restrictions as a principle for advancement in Krishna consciousness. This helps one to become free from any sinful activities, and therefore I'm trying to bring something impossible, but let me try anyway." He wrote books, preached, had both Sankirtans, performed Navadvip Parikram, was preaching very, very strongly. He discovered a site where Rupa Goswami had darshan of the Gopal deity in Mathura. He sent preachers to deliver lectures in universities in Germany. met the governor of Bengal at Mayapur. That's a famous picture. You can see him walking with the governor. The governor is very happy to meet such a saintly person. And then, of course, in the year 1930, the devotees before then had been living wherever they could find a place. Now, one very rich merchant was very favorable to Bhaktisiddhanta, offered this marble building, Bagh Bazaar, which had 2 floors in it, to Bhaktisiddhanta for an ashram, and the devotees moved in. But when the devotees moved in, there was a little problem. They were vying for different rooms, and there was some fight within the month, and the preaching started to stop, and people were more infighting about their position within the month. Bhaktisiddhanta became a little bit distressed to see that, and when he met our Srila Prabhupada in 1935, he told him that if I had my way, I would sell that moth and use the money to buy a printing press, and I would print books. And then he said to Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, if you ever get money, print books. He said the mridanga drum, when you play it, it can be heard from a certain distance. But the printing press is the brihat mridanga, the big mridanga. So that sound vibration will travel all around the world. So if you ever get money, print books. And our Srila Prabhupada made that a big part of his mission to write books, to print books, and to distribute these books worldwide. As a society, now we have recorded over 600 million books, almost a half a trillion. No, actually, yeah, half a billion through 500 million. 600 million books have been distributed by our society. And that's just what has been recorded. We understand even more that we have distributed much more than 1 billion books in our society. So devotees want to get the special mercy of Srila Prabhupada and also benedict the conditioned souls in a very direct way. One should take up this mission of doing book distribution. And that will please Srila Prabhupada very much and get his special mercy. And those who distributed books for their whole life, they're guaranteed to go back home, back to Godhead, no matter what. That's how dear this book distribution is to Srila Prabhupada and to the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Because as Prabhupada said, you can give your speech, and that's very nice, but what is the use of your 3-minute speech? If someone reads these books, they will be benefited eternally. So please distribute books, distribute books, distribute books. And we see devotees have taken it up very seriously. We have our host here today, Her Grace Satyabhama. She, every year during the Christmas marathon and even in between, she spends the whole time distributing Srila Prabhupada's books along with other devotees. And this year they became ranked very high within the UK as one of the largest, although it's a small temple, they challenged some of the big temples with their book distribution scores. So yeah, distribute books, distribute books, distribute books. And Srila Prabhupada wrote so many books that he took the Vedic knowledge, translated into the English to make it readable for the Western world. And this knowledge is being spread around the world, and we can see by Srila Prabhupada's books that we have devotees now practicing Krishna consciousness in more than 75, 80 countries around the world, even more than that. I think there's about 129 countries worldwide. We have close to 100 countries. We have been opening temples, preaching centers, schools, restaurants, various types of to places where people can learn about Krishna consciousness. And it's all because of book distribution. Like that, every year during the Christmas time, there's marathon, but throughout the year, devotees are distributing books. And some devotees are doing such phenomenal book distribution that they're distributing hundreds of books every day on the streets to people who have never even come in contact with Krishna consciousness before. But by the power of the mercy coming from the great souls and the enthusiasm of the devotees, these books are raining down. Prabhupada said, in the war, when you want to destroy your enemy, you send the planes over and you rain bombs down on the enemy. So we want to rain bombs in the form of these books everywhere in the world, just like you want to inundate them with this transcendental knowledge. There's many stories how devotees have tirelessly distributed books in most difficult situations and changed the whole situation to a favorable situation. These books are very special. Prabhupada said, my books are like time bombs. Someone gets a book, they may not read it, but in due course of time, either they'll read it or someone who knows them will see that book and read it, and then that person will become interested in Krishna consciousness. So yeah, this book distribution is our main form of preaching throughout the world. Prabhupada said we have two very powerful forms of spreading our movement. One is farm communities, Varnashram Dharma, which is still yet to be developed, and book distribution. He said, if you put any time, energy, and effort in these two activities, you'll always be successful. Farm communities, self-sufficiency, Varnashram Dharma, cow protection, and book distribution are our main preaching. One for the social and environmental development of the society, and the second one for our preaching to the conditioned souls worldwide. So we are famous for book distribution, and there's hundreds, actually thousands and thousands of different episodes on how devotees have distributed books in the most difficult situations. Like the first book that was ever distributed in Russia was snuck in by Malati. She put the book in the luggage of her husband, Shamasundar, who traveled with Srila Prabhupada in 1971 to Russia. At that time, the communism was very strong, and people coming in from outside, their luggage would be searched to see if they had any contraband. So Shamasundar didn't even realize his wife had put this Bhagavad Gita in his luggage, and when they opened it up, the immigrations noticed it, and they said, "What is this?" And they picked up the book, and it had all kinds of pictures and different letters stuck in the pages. When the man picked it up, he dropped it, and everything went all over the ground. So he felt a little embarrassed. So he picked up everything, put it back in the book, and he put the book back in the suitcase without even, having it checked out. And that book got in. And then later on, when devotees were preaching in underground there, they took that one book and they copied it, and they were distributing it. And people were copying the whole book, Bhagavad Gita, by hand and distributing it that way. There was no printing press. And gradually, Bhagavad Gita started to infiltrate Russia in a very big way. And gradually, devotees became made through this book distribution and through some underground preaching during that time. It was dangerous. Many devotees were captured by the KGB and also tortured and harassed, put in jail. Some of them died also, but still they continued with their preaching and book distribution. If you read that one book called Salted Bread, about two devotees who were put into a jail in Siberia and how they were harassed and tortured there. And One of them died in jail, and the other one somehow lived. And he got out. He told the whole story and wrote a book on it. It's called Salted Bread. You should read that book. It's really heart-rendering, but it shows how determined devotees were to preach Krishna consciousness in the most difficult and practically impossible situations, being threatened in different ways if they didn't stop, but still they continued. And just like when Prabhupada first came to Australia, it was also like that. The Australian government didn't like us, but devotees were going out in the streets and distributing books, and devotees were being arrested and thrown in jail, paying a fine. They would get out, and then they would distribute books again, and then they get arrested and thrown in jail again, and then they would get out, and then would start preaching again. It was going on like that. After a while, the police got tired of arresting us. And gradually we gained some favor from the local population. And soon we were given some permission to go out and do preaching. And of course, many temples later on sprung up in that area in Australia because of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada told his devotees, don't worry, if they put you in jail, you can still chant in jail. And devotees were so enthusiastic to satisfy Srila Prabhupada and distribute books that they risked everything. So this society, which we have developed now, the ISKCON Society, was done by the sacrifice of many devotees who sacrificed everything. Many of them sacrificed their lives in order to spread Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada would say, he said, our movement will successfully spread all over the world when we have the quality of devotees in our movement that are willing to sacrifice their life in order to preach Krishna consciousness. Even today in certain countries, we're preaching underground because the government is very oppressive. Sometimes their governments are completely opposite in their beliefs in spirituality. They don't like our movement. They think our movement's bogus. Or when they see the success of our movement, they became very enthusiastic to arrest devotees, throw them out of the country. The whole life of Bhaktisiddhanta Swami was to distribute books, and during the communist time, during that time behind the communist bloc, in the communist bloc, you can read about the stories that he had to undergo being chased by various security places in different countries, such as Poland, Yugoslavia. At the time, it was Yugoslavia. Now it's, now it's broken up into 6 countries: Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia, um, uh, Serbia, Herzegovina, and Macedonia. Yeah, it was Montenegro, not Macedonia. Yeah. Montenegro. 6 countries broke up. Actually, they came back to their historical roots because Yugoslavia was an amalgamation of these 6 countries during the communist time, like that. So there's many stories there, how devotees have sacrificed their lives. The story of, what's his name? Sarba, how he traveled all the way from from Bosnia all the way to Croatia on foot during that time when there was so much war going on in that area. How he was shot at. Somehow he survived and he made it. The story of Sarba is really interesting. I met him in Hawaii when I was there in the year 2015, 2014 I was there. I met him there and he told me the whole story, and he's also written about it. I have a copy of that book that he wrote. It wasn't a book, but it was his talk about what he had to go through to travel from one country to another during that time. And he said he chanted the whole way, never stopped chanting because he continued to chant. Krishna protected him against so many things. He was shot at, and still he survived. So this was, how devotees have sacrificed their lives, and not only in, of course, and also in Czechoslovakia, also Czech, and now it's broken up into Czech and Slovakia. The difficulties preaching there, and even His Holiness Devamrita Swami was also part of that preaching, along with Bhaktitirtha in communist Germany, Yugoslavia, and Hungary, other places behind the communist bloc like that. So this movement is not very much understood or appreciated by the Western world, and especially certain governments are very adamant to make sure their country doesn't get purified by our preaching. But devotees are taking Lord Chaitanya's at every town and village throughout the world. And even today, devotees are preaching under difficult circumstances. There's one devotee in Croatia, I can't remember his name. He's going to China, and in China, he would distribute books on the street, which was, I mean, not only illegal, very dangerous. If they catch you, and they will put you in jail, and nobody would know anything about you the rest of your life. But he would go out and distribute books, and then after an hour, he'd run back to his place, change his clothes in a different disguise, and go back out again. You know that boy? He's Narayan Pandit. Yeah. He's in Pula. No, he's in Rijeka. He's in Rijeka. Yeah, I think he got married to a Chinese girl. Yes. Yeah. So book distribution helps you get married too. But anyway, I don't think he's doing that anymore now. He's here now. He's preaching. Yes. But just to show you, how many great souls have actually sacrificed everything just to distribute Prabhupada's books. And because of that, people have become Krishna conscious who would never have that opportunity. So this is our movement, and that's what, when Prabhupada received that instruction from Bhaktisiddhanta, if you ever get money, print books, distribute books, and speak on the books about the transcendental knowledge of the relationship with the soul, with the Supreme Soul, Sri Krishna. Will teach people their eternal relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, which is the eternal nature of the soul's relationship with the Supreme Soul. Yeah. So our movement, it has a great history, and it's going on today. Lord Chaitanya is fueling this movement with his mercy, and devotees are still going out preaching in very difficult circumstances, distributing books and distributing transcendental knowledge in different forms. So this movement is destined to spread throughout the world. It has its ups and downs, but all of that's natural in Kali Yuga. To preach Krishna consciousness in Kali Yuga is extremely difficult because of the atmosphere, because of the sinful activities, and because of the demoniac governments that are all over the world. We even see today how demoniac some of these governments are. They kill their own people when their own people just want some food and some place to live. And when they protest that they're not getting anything, they get killed. So the governments now are so demoniac and so anti-religious, although sometimes they profess themselves to be religious. A real religion is the natural constitutional position of all living beings to love and serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotion, and to distribute that knowledge of the eternal process of reaching the Supreme Lord in the form of books, lectures, and various other forms of distribution of transcendental knowledge. So Bhaktisiddhanta was the vanguard in establishing Krishna consciousness worldwide. He was the first one to send his followers, disciples to countries outside of India, Germany, Myanmar, France, London, and our Srila Prabhupada, he went to the United States and he became successful. Unfortunately, many of the other preachers didn't get much success for whatever reason. But Prabhupada came to a place in America which was saturated with people who were revolting against tradition, families, societies, and these are the people he met at the very beginning of his movement and encouraged them to take up spiritual life. They were attracted to Srila Prabhupada, they were attracted to Eastern philosophy, and Prabhupada taught the essence of Eastern philosophy, which is Vaishnava culture, to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead within devotion, based on the eternal teachings of Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other scriptures penned by the followers of Lord Chaitanya, the Goswamis, like that. So we have no shortage of transcendental knowledge in the form of books, and therefore we are writing. But even today, devotees are writing books. Today, I received another book from a devotee who. I was also talking to one devotee. Today is also the disappearance day of one of the great sannyasis in our movement, Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj. He was a disciple of our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. He came at the age of 45 to our movement. He was from Orissa. He was already engaged in many spiritual activities. He became attracted to Srila Prabhupada. After staying with Prabhupada for a little while, Prabhupada gave him first, second, and sannyas initiation immediately, understanding this person is very special. And he wrote many books and distributed books. Also, many of his writings were about, he was a very strong preacher. He was pretty much just like Bhaktisiddhanta. It's interesting. He disappeared on the appearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in Mayapur Dham, February 9, in the year 2010. I was personally present during his disappearance. I was in another area of Mayapur, and he was lecturing in one room in Mayapur, I forget not the long building, but in the Lotus building. He had a group of people listening, and he was talking about Lord Jagannath. And the mood of Jagannath represents this mood of separation from Krishna. He is Krishna in the mood of separation from himself, which was manifested by Lord Chaitanya, like that. So as he was narrating many pastimes, I remember it was in the evening time, I was listening to a lecture by another devotee of Srila Prabhupada at the time. What was his name? He was a Brahmana. He gave many wonderful lectures. He was from South India. Atma-tattva. And all of a sudden, the word came to where we were that Gaur Govinda Maharaj has left the world. People raced from all over Mayapur to come where he was. It was so crowded I couldn't even get in to see what was happening. But the story was that while he was talking about Lord Jagannath, he went into ecstasy. And at one moment, he fell silent. His eyes were closed, and people were wondering what was going on. But at that point, that was the end. He went into trance and left the world speaking about Lord Jagannath. And it was really amazing to see how he left the world just by his own volition, glorifying feeling the separation from Krishna as he was describing the mood of Lord Jagannath to many followers at that time. So today is his disappearance day. There's a program going on right now. I was supposed to go, but I decided to stay here and give this class instead. But when I met Gaur Govinda Maharaj in the year 1990, I think it was the year 1994 in New Vrindavan. He came to New Vrindavan and he started to preach. At that time, New Vrindavan was starting to adopt some of the externals of the Christian tradition. The leader of New Vrindavan had a background in Christianity, and he started to change some of the externals and also some of the rituals we were engaged in. At one point, we were putting on what we say Christian robes instead of dhotis and saris. So even the ladies would have these robes, long brown robes, and you'd have a belt in different colors. If you had a white belt, that means you were a grihasta. If you had a gold belt, that means you're either a sannyasi or a brahmachari, like that. So he came and he started to preach. And then he told one story, and to illustrate a particular point. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri, one personality who was so-called, I was a follower of Lord Chaitanya, name was Brahmananda Bharti. He came to see Lord Chaitanya, and he dressed himself in tree bark. He didn't wear the traditional robes. He was also a sannyasi, and he was wearing tree bark. And he came to see Lord Chaitanya. One of Srila Damodar Goswami brought him in, and Srila Goswami said to Lord Chaitanya, "Your Brahmananda Bharati is here." And although he was sitting in front of Lord Chaitanya said, "I don't see Brahmananda Bharati anywhere. Brahmananda Bharati doesn't wear tree bark." So Brahmananda Bharati got the idea that this is not very pleasing to Lord Chaitanya. So he told that story just to illustrate when we were changing our robes in front of and getting rid of the dhotis and putting on these Christian robes. And the whole community in New Vrindavan was turned upside down. Devotees started getting upset that he's criticizing us. Some devotees liked it, some devotees didn't. But Gaur Govinda Maharaj was an axe preacher. He was like Bhaktisiddhanta. He preached according to Shastra, to tradition, and didn't accept all of these changes as ways to improve our practice in Krishna consciousness. So that was a turning point in our community. We started to reevaluate what he said, and then there was later on this wound up in two different groups within New Vrindavan. The ones that wanted to follow Srila Prabhupada according to how Prabhupada gave us, and the ones that wanted to go along with the new tradition and Christianize all of our rituals and the dress. And that was a long fight that ended in the year 1997, no, 1998, I think it was. Went on for many years. And finally, Srila Prabhupada's tradition, principles, ritual, everything came back to the standard. As I was in the midst of all of that, I was involved in it also. I can give you a lot of personal stories, which I won't talk about today. But this is how Gaur Govinda Maharaj was preaching. And he sort of spoke in such a way as to wake us up that we're not following Srila Prabhupada. By making all of these changes, we're creating a new movement within the society. This is very common in Kali Yuga. People like to introduce new religious principles into the traditional principles in order to think that they can improve the activities, the preaching, within the society. But a lot of times we find are just deviations or just whimsical ideas that are brought up with that have no real substance to it. Of course, changing dress can be done for preaching. Prabhupada writes about that in the Srimad Bhagavatam. You can find it in the 7th canto, 13th chapter, verse number 9. He talks about changing our dress in order to reach people in the Western world. But changing your dress for the sake of worship was never allowed. So in the temples and in the preaching centers, we should always maintain the dress that was given by Srila Prabhupada, devotees and women accordingly. And Prabhupada would say, this is the dress of the spiritual world, like that. And there's much more to it that I can explain, but this is some of the things that our society has gone through where people have introduced many changes just for whatever reason. Supposedly some of them are sincere to improve the preaching or whatever, but it's not allowed within the society as a standard. Outside for preaching, we can adopt certain methods of preaching to infiltrate different types of mentalities with Krishna consciousness. That is allowed, that's understandable. That's called bridge preaching, that we do that also. But through the society, we keep I remember when we were preaching like that, one Christian group came to see us, and he saw all of the changes that we were making towards Christianity. And he told me directly, I was involved in bringing his class to the community. He told me directly that, why are you making all of these changes? You have a nice tradition. Why are you trying to follow Christianity? And I was shocked to hear that from a Christian who was criticizing us for trying to be like them. He had some value. He understood. Yeah. So these are some of the things. So Bhaktisiddhanta was a real stalwart preacher. Well, sometimes when he would see Mayavadis, he would go and chase them and beat them up. He became feared by the Mayavadis. Actually, when his Guru Maharaj, Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji, left the world, he was a brahmachari at the time, and his guru was a sannyasi. He was a Babaji. So the Babajis claimed that, well, the body of Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj belongs to us because we are Babajis, and his only follower, only disciple is simply he's simply a brahmachari. So we want to take the body and we'll establish it into a place. But they wanted to use his body to make money, to invite the public to give donations and like that. So he challenged them. He said, "I'm the only disciple, but still, I want to take the body of my spiritual master, and I have that right." So these Babajis, they went to the police, and there was an argument. The police came, and then they said Bhaktisiddhanta, who was of course not Bhaktisiddhanta, he was a brahmachari at the time. He said, "My spiritual master was a pure Babaji. I challenge any of you, if you have not had any illicit connection with women in the last 1 year, in the last 1 month, in the last 1 week," the police said, "How will you know if they are telling the truth or not?" He said, "I will take their word." And he said, "In the last 3 days, if you haven't had any illicit connection with women, then you can take the body of my spiritual master." And each one of them, they all put their head down, turned away, and walked away. So they were actually not real Babajis in the real sense. So people adopt this Babaji dress simply for name and fame or some prestige, to gain some followers, to get some donations. So they live like that. And then he established that Samadhi. You can see the Samadhi Mandir of Gorkishore Das Babaji. And it's in Mayapur, in the Chaitanya Mat, it's there. And of course, there's his Bhajan Kutir, is in Bhakti Vinod Thakur's house, and Godruma Dweep. So, yeah. And Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj was a great, great soul. So here's a little bit. I mean, I just touched the surface of the life of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. There's much, much, much more that we can also talk about. And I'll read something which I think is very interesting that will help you understand the nature of a pure devotee, how he sees things in relationship to tradition, to preaching. And this is an interesting story. I'll read it, and it's worth hearing. Where is it? A lesson, I think it is. No, that's not the one. That's the other one I was going to. Let's see here. Bhakti lesson, but let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, nice story in the life of Bhaktisiddhanta. Once some devotees went to establish a preaching center in Bengal. They worked day and night, equipping it as a beautiful temple. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta arrived to install the deities, he was very pleased and asked about one brahmachari who had worked hard on the preparation. The disciples told him, "Master, he became entangled with a lady. We rebuked him so much for his behavior that he fled from this place." Bhaktisiddhanta replied, "I don't want to establish a preaching center here, nor do I want to install the deities. In this world, we spend hundreds of gallons of blood to bring a person out of the clutches of Maya. If that person makes some mistake, it will be washed away by his serving Hari, Guru, and Vaishnav. But you have chastised him, and he has gone away. I don't want to make a center here. Search for him and bring him to me, otherwise I will go away." The anxious disciples began to search for the brahmachari. Madhava Maharaj, who at the time was named Hayagriva Brahmachari, found the brahmachari, apologized, and asked him to return. The brahmachari wept, saying, "I was serving here in a watch company, but I was not really happy. I wanted to return, but I was thinking, how can I show my face? So I did not return." He at once went running and weeping to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, thinking him more merciful than Krishna himself, and all his anarthas were washed away in a moment. Bhaktisiddhanta told the disciples, the purport is that we should not criticize anyone, whether a devotee or a worldly person. Then he quoted, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one should neither praise nor criticize the conditioned nature of activities of other persons. Rather, one should see the world as simply the combination of material nature and the enjoying souls, which are all based on the absolute truth. Whoever indulges in praising or criticizing qualities and behavior of others will become quickly deviated from his own best interests by his entanglement in illusionary dualities." Bhaktisiddhanta continued, "To bring a person from the clutches of Maya is very, very hard. If lust or another attachment is present in that person's heart, it will go away very soon if he is chanting and remembering and listening to Harikatha. Be very careful. Do not criticize devotees or non-devotees. First, look at your own conditioning and try to purify yourself. If there's any lust in you, if there's any deceit in you or not, Be worried for that. Don't worry for others. Shri Guru and Lord Shri Krishna are responsible for others. You cannot do anything to help them, so you have no right to criticize. And then he goes on, to make us wholly devoted devotees of Krishna's name, Sri Gaurangadev, the combined form of Radha Govinda, came to this world. But if we disregard his teachings and show no interest in Sri Nam Seva, we will never attain auspiciousness. Sri Nam Sankirtan is the best sadhana. If other sadhanas help us in Krishna's Sankirtan, then they deserve to be called sadhana. Otherwise, they are simply impediments to sadhana. Sri Krishna Nam Sankirtan is the emperor of sadhanas. It is the only infallible sadhana capable of bringing us to perfection. Srimad Mahaprabhu did not speak of teaching Archana, but in Shikshastra he taught Nam Bhajan. Although in Kali Yuga other limbs of bhakti should be performed, they should be accompanied by bhakti denoted by kirtan. Krishna and Krishna's name are not two entities. Krishna is his holy name, and the holy name is Krishna. Nam Krishna is the son of Nanda, Shamasundar. Our only duty in service is to perform Sri Nam Sankirtan. This understanding is auspicious. This is quoted by Bhaktisiddhanta from one book called Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava. So Nam Sankirtan reigns supreme amongst all of the activities of devotional service. And if anyone is not doing Nam Sankirtan and doing so many other things, they cannot receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so where are we? Back to the Zoom meeting. So we took a little extra time just to illustrate the glories of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, which that's just a small drop in the bucket of his unlimited pastimes, qualities, and spiritual achievements, how he set the stage for the worldwide preaching of Krishna consciousness all the world by inspiring his disciples to go around the world to spread Lord Chaitanya's mission. One out of all of his disciples was completely successful, and that is our A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who took the instructions of his spiritual master in his heart. Although he started his mission at the age of 70, when persons who are that age, they're not thinking about starting a worldwide mission. They're thinking about slowing down in their activities of life. But Srila Prabhupada was the opposite. And he journeyed across the ocean, had 2 heart attacks, had a 3rd heart attack after he arrived. But keeping the instructions of his spiritual master and the mission of Lord Chaitanya foremost, he worked through all of the difficulties, had complete faith in the holy name of Krishna. He also writes that. He said, I have no qualifications. My only qualification is I have complete faith in the holy name of Krishna. And he wrote that in his poem, Markinda, the Bhagavad Dharma. That was the last line he said. So we can also learn from that. If we take shelter of Krishna's holy name and make that our main sadhana in Krishna consciousness, we will always be in a position to receive all of the mercy that is available through Lord Chaitanya's mission. And that mercy will carry us to the stage of perfection. So chant the holy names, glorify the holy names, and distribute the holy names also. That's all part of the same program. Not only chant, but try to inspire others to take up this chanting also. So our movement is spreading around the world because of the glories of Harinam Sankirtan and book distribution, which ultimately is the same. These 2 things, the holy name and holy books. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj ki, or Govinda Maharaj ki, or Premanande, Hari 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 Bol.
Jai Guru Maharaj ki Jai. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. It was so nectarian and heart melting. Really, I could just sit and hear for whole day. So beautiful pastimes, and you've narrated it so nicely. I didn't know so many facts about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
We
And
took a drop of the drop of the drop of the
mm,
ocean, unlimited devotion coming from that great soul.
amazing, so beautiful.
The 3-volume set penned by my godbrother Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, really huge. He took him 22 years to finish it, the whole life of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, along with many of his followers, and how Krishna consciousness spread throughout the Indian subcontinent during that time.
Is it the same book, Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, you're talking about, or
What is it called? I'm not sure of the actual title. It's 3 volumes.
3 volumes? Wow. Okay.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, it's the same.
Yeah. Recently, he's released a 3-volume set on Srila Prabhupada also, about the life of Prabhupada's preaching also. Our Prabhupada. So the first one was finished about 15 years ago.
Oh,
Beautiful.
nice.
You'll learn things about Bhaktisiddhanta you have never heard before. It's not written anywhere else. He did extensive research for 22 years. And it took him that long to put these 3 volumes together, but it's a very comprehensive narration in a very systematic way of the life of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And a lot about his followers, who they were, how they preached, how they established temples, Lord Chaitanya's footprints. I mean, so many things that they did. Preaching was on such a high level. Bhaktisiddhanta created 60 sannyasis who were traveling everywhere and preaching, full force on Krishna consciousness. Unfortunately, after Bhaktisiddhanta disappeared, the movement started to gravitate down. But our Srila Prabhupada continued the movement by bringing that same movement to the Western world.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today, Mungal Maharaj. It was very nice. Yeah, it's very inspiring to hear his pastimes, such a great acharya, and give us a motivation to try and do a little bit from our behalf to preach the mission of Mahaprabhu.
We should one thing at least appreciate, that the fact we are here today is due to the sacrifice of all of the devotees who came before in order to establish this movement. And it was the early pioneers who worked so hard and sacrificed everything in order to spread Krishna consciousness. Because of that, now we have a grand society that's preaching around the world. Many temples are still opening, books are still going out, programs are still going on. Even today, I was the whole morning from about 11 o'clock a.m. all the way up until 4 o'clock, when we were engaged in worshiping both of these personalities today. I was invited tonight to give a speech on Gaur Govinda Maharaj, but I thought I'll stay here and talk to you guys because you're also an audience. So I thought, so many people will speak at that same venue I was supposed to speak. So what will I speak? So I thought, let me stay here and do it here. Perhaps some of you will learn something that you can take with you and use it to increase your own practice in devotional service.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming and joining here. It is definitely, like, I'm sure it has inspired everyone else to do something for this movement, basically, for such a glorious movement, and inspired me to go out for book distribution today only because it's such an auspicious day. So I'll try and do something today.
Yeah, if that's the only success from tonight's program, then that's successful.
Jai. I'll definitely go out today.
We want everyone who's there to go out today and
Mm.
distribute at least one book.
Jai Hari Hari.
I used to say that I want every one of my disciples to go out every day and distribute at least one book a day.
Thank you.
And devotees did that. Even those who had other services, they would stop for at least an hour or two during the day and distribute some books.
I'll send my score tonight, even if it's one book, for sure.
To be successful, you just keep the instructions of Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta in your mind and heart, automatically empowered to reach these conditions also.
Thank you. And it's very nice when I'm sure all of you, everyone must be feeling when the instructions comes by the succession, then it makes a big impact, and it doesn't feel like it's only an instruction. It feels like it's a blessing as coming. So hearing from you coming, it's feeling like it's a blessing already in the form of the instruction. So thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for always being with us, for selecting us today out of many hundreds and thousands there giving class. So our
Yeah.
most
30
humble.
We have 29 devotees here today.
It was
So
37 actually for first 1 hour 15 minutes we had 37 devotees. It just we have crossed little time, so that's why they must have some other arrangements. Yeah.
okay. So we will see if there's anyone would like to add anything or ask
Yes,
a
please.
anything
Yes.
about Bhaktisiddhanta, about preaching, about anything about his life, or even Gaur Govinda Maharaj, who was also. It's interesting, Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he lined himself with the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta in preaching. And when he came to his disappearance day, he disappeared on the appearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta, just to show his
Connection.
Yeah.
Amazing. Sridevi Mataji, you have a question, please.
Thank you, Satyabhama. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our Guru Parampara, all glories to Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj. As you were speaking about how pure and how forceful Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj was in his preaching, I was thinking that in those days the purity was appreciated so much, and therefore his method of preaching and his way of preaching, forceful, emphatic, direct, non-compromising, he was called Simha Guru. But in today's day and age, if we preach like that, we will be considered crazy, fanatical, impractical, out of tune with what the world needs, etc., etc. So, do you think that our milder way of preaching is called for so that we don't put off people?
You have to preach in such a way as to reach them without compromising or without changing the essence of the knowledge. We should not try to patronize anyone. We should speak the truth, but speak the truth in a way that is pleasant. You can speak the truth in different moods, but the mood is very important. That you're trying to give something to someone, and you're doing it in such a ways that you want them to be able to understand, or at least try to understand what you're giving them. So Satyam Priyam, Satyam Bruyam. Speak the truth in a palatable way. And that's a mood that which we try to adopt. But many times there are people who will understand, and there are people who will not understand. We were listening this morning to one of the prominent disciples of Gaur Govinda Maharaj was saying many persons criticized his spiritual master for his preaching, and others loved it. So people have their opinions. Some will love it and benefit from it. Others will not accept it and find some fault. you can expect that that will always be there. People will find it, some will accept and some will not. So we're not trying to make it so everyone accepts. It's not possible. There are always people who will not accept, always find fault, could be find criticism. That'll always be there, especially in Kali Yuga. And so it's always there. But that doesn't mean we should compromise in order to patronize some ideas that will make it more palatable. No, speak the truth, but speak it in a way that is understandable. But sometimes you have to speak a little bit strong, like you're not this body. And if you stay on the bodily platform and simply pander to all of the needs of the body, what will you gain? Well, you'll gain another chance to get another body in your next life and do the same thing again. And you may also lose that opportunity for human form of life. So sometimes we speak strongly that if you don't take up spiritual life, you're risking your the chances for you to find real happiness and real perfection in life. And you may lose in your next life the opportunity to do it again by falling down into the lower species of life. So we speak like that. Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is not optional. The option is either you take the Krishna conscious or you suffer. That's it. That's the option. So people won't like that, but that's all right. Some will like it, and some won't. But those who are a little bit concerned will have some understanding that this material world is just a place of suffering, and I'm experiencing that suffering. Maybe there's a way out of this suffering. And that qualifies them to hear what is actual transcendental knowledge or real knowledge. In Kali Yuga, people want material happiness and spiritual practice at the same time. It doesn't go together. You can get happiness on the material level if you forget about it and simply focus on Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will take care of you and he'll provide everything you need to live nicely in this world. But if you look towards that as the goal, you'll miss Krishna consciousness and you'll lose both. Those who sacrifice the spiritual for the material ultimately wind up losing both because material is fleeting and it comes and goes. All we can do in this material world is somehow or other maintain ourselves so we can practice Krishna consciousness as the goal of life. So we do that. And there's 4 ashrams. One is Grihastha ashram, maintaining children, families, taking care of one's needs by securing some pecuniary gain in order to fortify my material needs, but at the same time, that's secondary. It's not foremost. And success in that area is not success. Real success is Chaito Dharpana Marjanam, to purify the heart, to awaken one's attraction for the Supreme Lord in devotion. That is who we are. We're not this body. It's like we go to sleep at night and we forget about who we are. We're sleeping in another world. We're not even aware who we are at that time. We call it sleeping, dreaming. So this world is like that. We're asleep to who we are.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and so the great souls, those who are fixed in devotion, they're like doctors. They're distributing the medicine that will cure this disease called bhavaro. Bhavaro means material attachments. You have that bhavaro, right, in Croatian? What is it called? Bavaroga.
Avaroga.
Bavaroga. Yeah, same in Sanskrit, Bavaroga. What does it mean?
It's like snake.
Huh? I'm
It's
checking
there is little children in Bavaroga.
little children. Oh, he's like the Bavaroga. I have two Slovenians, one Croatian here. They have a term in Croatia called Bavaroga. You want to scare your little kid. You say there's this big evil guy who'll get you if you don't behave. His name is Bavaroga.
It's same, isn't it then?
Yeah. So there's this guy who'll get you. His name is Bavaroga. And
Same as material.
he'll keep you in the cycle of birth and death forever. Enechi asari maya nasi baralagi harinama maha mantra allow to me magi. This is the medicine to cure the disease. And what is it? Harinam maha mantra. What is that disease? Bavaroga.
If you don't the chant Mahamantra, Bavaroga will come.
You'll run away.
Any other questions, comments, devotees from anyone about the preaching, about His Holiness Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj?
This year is the 153rd anniversary of the
Wow.
appearance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati. 153 years.
Wow.
And he has been honored even by the government. The local officials have given him on his 150th anniversary 3 years ago. There were celebrations throughout many places in India. Even secular societies were acknowledging his contribution to spirituality. They even made a coin, I think. There was a coin made by the government with a picture of Bhaktisiddhanta on the coin.
Thank you, Maharaj.
This is in India.
Prasiddha Chaitanya Prabhu, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. I just realized that how powerful this glorification was by Guru Maharaj. And actually he was the lion guru, and the way he teaches, so we should understand how much sacrifice done by this movement, and each one of uh, them has done so much sacrifice. So we should try to preach others and cultivate them so that they can come in the Krishna consciousness and they can change their life. Otherwise, they will be always been suffering. So
The
thank you, Guru Maharaj,
Acharyas,
such a powerful prayer.
the Acharyas say, both Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati and Srila Prabhupada, you have to shed gallons of blood to make one disciple in this age. Very difficult to make a follower, a true follower of Krishna consciousness.
Guru Maharaj.
It's very difficult. But because it's difficult doesn't mean you don't try.
Bless
Because
Guru Maharaj.
though it's difficult, it's possible. And people have come
Guru
in.
Maharaj,
How many people are coming, and we're happy with that, but how many are actually seriously taking up Krishna consciousness, making it their focus in life, and not just some side activity along with everything else they do. So you can see, are you really serious about this process? Are you really serious in making a solution to the problems of life? What are the problems of life? Birth, death, disease, and old age. One can free themselves from the effects of these four contaminations by reaching the spiritual platform, because birth, death, disease, and old age is on the material platform. We reach the spiritual platform, we're free from these, and then we qualify ourselves to enter back into our eternal home, the spiritual world. And then there's no more death, no more birth. Obviously, if there's no death and birth, there's no old age or disease either. These are considered the four built-in miseries of the material energy. No one can overcome them without unless they escape the cycle of birth and death. That as birth is as when one is born, death is guaranteed, and one dies, birth and rebirth is also guaranteed. The soul is eternal. Where will the soul go? If it still has attachments to material life, it'll come back again in another body to try to fulfill those attachments in the next life. And this Maya Lavase, Kacho based life after life, being thrown in different bodies, doing the same thing, trying to overcome the sufferings of the material energy. But you can't do that. It's not possible. Material energy works under the control of Krishna. Maya Dakshena Prakriti Suyasage Sachiracharam. Daibiye Shagunamayi Momamaya Darat. This word, this material energy is my energy, works under my control. No one can flaunt material energy unless they take shelter of Krishna, who's the controller of material energy. Then the material energy will have no effect on the person when they take shelter of the person who controls material energy, and that person will relieve that soul from the control of material energy through the process of bhakti. But you can't get around it. The game in the material world is to try to adjust the material world in such a way that it'll work for me. And people are constantly adjusting. But adjustment simply leads to more adjustment, that's all. You may change the forms, you may change the situations, but the built-in sufferings cannot be changed simply by adjustment, because that's part of the material energy. As Krishna says, Dukalayam Ashashvatam. This material world is built in with suffering. It's already there. Just like if you go to jail, you don't expect to go on a vacation. It's suffering in jail. So being in the material world is like another form of jail. It's suffering. We want freedom, but we're limited. We want eternal life, but we can't have it. We want happiness, and we're always struggling to squeeze out a little happiness from things that are not even there. It's like you take a sugar cane and you put it through the machine, you get some juice. Then if you take that same cane, they do that in India, they run it through it again and they get a few more drops. And then they try to run it through it again, and maybe they get another drop. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to squeeze out some drop of happiness in this material world by trying to adjust this material energy in different ways. You got it? The stop.
Yes.
You can't overcome material energy. It's not possible. It's Krishna's powerful force for controlling the souls that refuse to accept their position as servant of the Supreme Lord. But there's a way out, and it's very nice. Lord Chaitanya made it easy. Harinam, Sankirtan, Krishna Prasadam, service to the Supreme Lord and to those who are connected with that same Supreme Lord. Very nice process. It's very susukam kartamavyayam. It's joyful. It's joyful when we stop trying to squeeze out that drop in material life. But if we're still squeezing, will get squeezed, So it's easy. Just try to put all your time, attention, energy, resources into devotional service. Take care of your body, whatever is necessary, but focus on your spiritual activities as the goal in life. And you'll find that, life actually becomes nice.
Yes, sir.
You'll start to enjoy, even while you're still in this body, even while the body is going through different difficulties, still there's a happiness that comes with spiritual life that is distinct from whatever the body's experiencing. That happiness is the happiness of the soul awakening to its real nature, its real activities, devotional service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prasiddha Chaitanya Prabhu. Shiv Kumar Prabhu, you have a question?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, just one question I had, Maharaj. Um, uh, Before the time, is it Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura who started this institution, Maharaj? The mutt and for the purpose of preaching, Maharaj? Before that, it was just individuals who have to approach gurus for their
No.
respective life, Maharaj?
No, he instituted the Gaudiya Math, which was the principles of Lord Chaitanya in an institution called the Gaudiya Math.
Mm.
Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur really was the vanguard in discovering reviving Lord Chaitanya's movement, which was lost after Lord Chaitanya disappeared for about 150 years, was gone.
Mm.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur, after coming in contact with Chaitanya Charitamrita, he started to do research and understand all about Lord Chaitanya. And then he went deeper and understood that his movement is alive, but it's been changed. It's been, altered in so many different ways. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur did a lot of research. And contrary to what was believed at the time, he found the actual birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, which was not what people were saying. It was in a different place that they had found. But he actually found it. And then he established that as the place, and it's cursed, now it's here. And then from his son, Bhaktisiddhanta, he started the society, the Gaudiya Math Society.
Mm.
And it became an institutionalized. It was the same principles that were done in a less organized way by sadhus who were taking that same activities, but preaching it to just their disciples. There wasn't an institution. It was only Bhaktisiddhanta started an institution. And Srila Prabhupada carried that through as a worldwide institution. Before, it was in the villages with disciples, but all of the information was there in the life of Lord Chaitanya and his followers, the 6 Goswamis. But that was all lost after about 50 years after Lord Chaitanya disappeared. His movement started to disappear also. Many of his followers were leaving. Were still saying, but they were spread out in different directions, and there was no cohesiveness amongst the disciples at that time. There were individuals who were preaching in different places. And then there's a story, there was a curse that this movement would be lost for a while. And that goes back to the story of Vamanadev and Bali Maharaj. For 150 years, and this movement was completely lost. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur revived it. But there were still people practicing it on an individual level. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, you know, he was a great soul. He was practicing it also. So there were Vaishnavas spread out, but there was no organization. It was Bhaktisiddhanta who put it all in the form of a society, created a newspaper and started publishing books, and started to adopt the principles of disciples.
Okay.
And our Srila Prabhupada carried that same structure and established it in the West.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bhaktisiddhanta's movement started to decline also because the followers didn't follow Bhaktisiddhanta when he said, establish a governing board commission to manage the affairs of the society. Do not elect one particular person as the leader of society. But the followers of Bhaktisiddhanta didn't listen to him. And two or three of them rose to the top claiming that they were the actual heir to his position. And then the society split into different factions, and there were court cases arguing over the properties of the society. Kunja Bihari was one, his name was another one. There was two prominent persons who were fighting for that position. Prabhupada writes about it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in chapter number 12 of Adi Leela. You can read it at the beginning of chapter 12, a little bit about the history of what happened after his spiritual master disappeared. They didn't follow his instructions to set up a governing board to manage the society. They broke into different factions in order to establish who was actually the actual heir to Bhaktisiddhanta, which he didn't say anyone was. He said establishes. And with Srila Prabhupada, when he started his movement, he could see the same thing would happen here. So in 1970, that was 7 years before he left, he established the governing board commission as the management of this society. And then a structure was attached to that whole management system. So, you know. So it's a great history. I mean, you can read, so there's many books written about the history of this movement.
Yes.
Starting with Bhaktivinoda Thakur and up to the present day.
Yes.
These three acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, and our Srila Prabhupada, have taken, Lord Chaitanya's movement, reestablished it, and spread it throughout the world. Through books, through temples, through various types of outreach programs. Today we have our Sridham Mayapur, which is actually the center of our whole society. Prabhupada said, Mayapur is our home.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for patiently answering everyone's question. We are just at 2 hours. Is it okay to stop the call now, Guru Maharaj? I might have to disconnect.
I'll disconnect if you disconnect, and
I will.
stay connected, stay connected.
If Sridevi Mataji,
I can, yeah.
can you stay?
If you make me co-host, I can hang
Yes.
around.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sridevi Mataji. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no more questions, maybe we can chant a little bit, but
Yes, that'd be
if there's
nice.
no more questions, we can also take questions or comments or anything that devotees would like to discuss.
Okay, Sridevi Mataji has a question. I'm so sorry, Guru Maharaj. I'll have to drop off.
Yeah, but maybe you're out there today. We'll distribute books, distribute books, distribute books.
I'm going out.
Good.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
That's
Thank
the
you,
real.
Satyabhama.
Thank you, Mataji.
Guru Maharaj, on this question of GBC and the infighting, which led to the splitting of the Gaudiya Math and then, all the lawsuits, etc., and luckily, unfortunately for us, Srila Prabhupada then took up that mantle, and that's how we have our ISKCON society. And we have followed that instruction by having the GBC, the ruling governing body commission, etc. So I am unaware of how the GBC is appointed and how it all happens. And do the common rank and file devotees get any say in electing these leaders, or how does it happen? Because I remember so many people telling me the GBC has no relevance to my life because whatever they decide doesn't affect me.
What's the question?
So how do we have any say in electing these people, or how do they get that position of GBC, and then what do they actually do for our society?
Well, they're the ultimate managing society, so they set certain standards, and the temples have to follow it, and each area of the world has a representative who is a GBC member who governs that area to make sure things are going on in that area. It's the duty of the different representatives to visit their temples and oversee the activities of the temples, correct anything that is not in line with the protocol given, and then they meet and discuss and decide certain principles. So it's a loosely organized program. It's based on love and trust. There are standards that we should follow, but the enforcement of the standards are not done by an enforcing body that if you don't do it, you get punished. No, it's individual choices ultimately. But we accept Srila Prabhupada's instructions. The GBC does make mistakes. There's no question about that. But if we don't have a authority to run our society, then you have chaos. You have simply chaos. Everybody will come up with their own ideas on how to do things. So there has to be some standard by which we follow the process and also manage our affairs like that. So it's important. In fact, it's interesting because today is the third day of the meeting of the GBC this year. So it's good. The GBC meeting started on the 4th, 5th, and 6th, I think. How many more days is it? Is there, I think, a few more days, and they'll come up with certain amendments, elect certain people, adopt certain principles, and inspire the rest of the society to follow. It's not done out of force, but it's a structure for management, for overview, for correction when there's correction is needed also. There's accountability. So if you don't have organization, you'll have, just like when they rejected Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, the whole Gaudiya Math became asara. Prabhupada uses that word asara. Asara means useless. They stopped all of their preaching just to fight about how management would go on. And they began, Bhaktisiddhanta's movement was powerful. And now the remnants of the society, and they're picking themselves up now because of the example set by Srila Prabhupada. And they're starting again to preach and also become more effective. But it's broken down into individual mats. They don't have a governing boarding commission to manage the whole society. Each mat is separate and manages accordingly. So we can't do that because our movement's worldwide. The Gaudiya Math is still limited to the area where they're preaching, that's all, which is India. we have a more, well, we say, organized system of management and activity. And if something becomes apparently deviating from Srila Prabhupada's ideas, then GBC will take that up and mandate a standard based on that. But people follow or don't follow. That remains there also. Jurisprudence is there also, accountability like that. So it's up to the representatives to manage their different areas around the world. And because the world is quite diverse in culture, language, and various things, there is flexibility in management in different areas. What works in one area may not work in another area.
Okay. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for clarifying that. Yes, Sadhvi Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, thank you very, very much for today. What I'm going to say is because in my country, in Iran, where I was born, my country or not, where I was born, that what happened to Iran was that the religion and politics mixed it together, and it creates chaos as it is now, and also caused many to turn their back on their belief, to think that is the same thing. Isn't it a risk to have the same thing if it's not done?
But the tradition was in our culture, if you go back in history, the leaders in the society were Kshatriyas, they're managers, heads of the state. They're also fighters, but they're managed by, and they're guided by spiritual principles coming from the Brahmin class. So without this Varnashram system, where the leaders take advice from the Brahmins, who give spiritual advice and also practical advice on how to manage the society. You have the managers and then you have the advisors. Nowadays, the managers don't take advice from anyway, they manage the way they want. So therefore, Prabhupada used to say it's the duty of the government to make sure that everyone in the society is following some form of religion. It's not a matter of this religion or that religion, but everyone should follow some form of religious principles. These Prabhupada said that's the duty of a leader. Not that you create a secular society and you just kick out religion, no. But nowadays, the leaders are not qualified, and therefore they use religion in order to exploit the people. And if you don't do it this way, then you're ousted or you're punished like that. The leaders in today's world are not qualified to be leaders because they're not guided by religious principles. Therefore, the kings in Vedic times were called Rajarsis, Raja Rishi. Raja means king, Rishi means sage. They were a combination of leaders who were guided by spiritual principles, who were practiced like that. We're seeing that also in India now. Mr. Modi, he's more like that. He's very inclined to religious activities, though at the same time, he is ruling the government. So you'll see some indications of what it was like in the past. It's still there in a very small portion, comparatively speaking, worldwide. But most political governments use religion to exploit the people rather than to guide them or to persecute them, to limit them. And if they don't use religion, they just make it a secular society. So secular society means, animal society. Without religion, a person is an animal, no better than an animal.
But unfortunately, in my experience, the authorities, the government, instead of taking advices from the Brahmana to manage the situation better, they do opposite.
Yeah.
They exploit the name of spirituality or religion, and then they do it the opposite.
How do they get in power? They get in power by revolution, they get in power by votes, something like that. They're not qualified to be leaders.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Raj is looking very thoughtful. You are Raj, you are a Kshatriya. You want to ask some questions?
No, Mataji, I'm listening. I'm listening and trying to learn.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, comments? You want to share your realizations after such a powerful class? I'm sure many of you have had many realizations. If you'd like to share, or if you want to continue asking questions, or if you would like to chat.
Well, obviously, if there's no more questions, we can end with some japa.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. We
I
can.
think we spoke extensively on this subject matter. Of course, we could go on and on, but still, we've talked about. I'm going to read one more thing before we leave here, just so you'll get a little bit of understanding of Bhaktisiddhanta here. One more thing, if I can find it. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me find it. It shouldn't be that hard. Okay, these are words of wisdom from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. These are 25 principles, he said. Listen up carefully, and you may ask a question based on what I read. I'll read slowly before I go to the next one. And these are just listings of about 1 or 2 lines. Number 1, we are put to test and trial in this world. Only those who attend the kirtan of the devotees can succeed. Number 2, every spot on earth where discourses of God are held is a place of pilgrimage. 3, possessions of objects not related to Krishna is our main malady. 4, let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. 5, as dalliance with the body in luxury increases, so wanes the spirit of service to the Lord. 6, those favored by God find their path set in thorns. 7, there is no peace or happiness in worldly life. Circumstance create turmoil and annoyance. Number 8, chant the Maha Mantra loudly with attachment. This will drive away inertia, worldly evils, and pests. Number 9, be indifferent to bizarre gossips. Stick firmly to your cherished goals. No lack of impediments of the world will ever stand in your way. Number 10, pay due respects to the extroverts of the world. Do not be appreciative of their manners and conducts. They are to be shaken off from your mind. 11, a devotee feels the presence of God everywhere, but one averse to the Lord denies his existence everywhere. 12, you cannot appreciate transcendental matters with the reasoning of the world. It is sheer nonsense to decry them with the measuring stick of your intellect. 13, to recite the name of Sri Krishna is bhakti. 14, life is the glorification of the topics of Hari. If that is stopped, then what is the need What is the need is there to carry on life. 5, physical illness with Hari Bhajan is preferred to physical fitness without Hari Bhajan. 6, our span of life on earth is short. Our life will be crowned with success if the body wears out with constant discourses on Hari. 17, we are here on earth not to work as artisans for making big buildings with wood and stone, but to work only as messengers for the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Dev. 18, a sycophant is neither a guru or a preacher. 19, to transfer the adverse desires of the jiva is the supreme duty of the most merciful. To rescue one person from the stronghold of Mahamaya is an act of superb benevolence far superior to opening innumerable hospitals. 20, unless we are devoted to God, secularism shall never leave us. 21, look within, amend yourself rather than pry into the frailties of others. 22, in this world of Maya, averse to the Lord, full of trials and tribulations, only patience, humility, and respect for others are our friends for Hari Bhajan. 23, the Lord, Gaurasunda, puts his devotees into various difficulties and associates to test their patience and strength of mind. The success depends on their good fortune. Number 24, when faults in others misguide you and delude you, have patience, introspect, find fault in yourself, know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself. And the last one, 25, I wish that every selfless, tender-hearted person of the Gaudiya math will be prepared to shed 200 gallons of blood for the nourishment of the spiritual corpus of every individual of this world. Now these are called words of wisdom from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj ki jai. So
Very
that's,
powerful, very
yeah.
powerful, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, another drop in the bucket of the ocean of transcendental knowledge. Okay, so we'll begin chanting for maybe a little while. I'll be chanting for maybe 2 rounds before I disappear, so you can continue on after that. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda.
In Sunday, which are Sunday feast, we go
I have to stop for a second here. Wait, I'll be right with you.
group of Krishna Kshetra Maharaj. And we have Sunday feast, and do you want to come?
Where?
Here in Gora village.
You know, if I'm invited, I'll come.
Yes, I don't know, I have to invite you. And text you, you go to there, and we have a lecture if you want to read.
Ask Maharaj and see what he says.
Maharaj said it's okay, I've spoken.
Yes, to invite me.
Yes,
What time?
1 o'clock, 13th.
Tomorrow.
No, it's Sunday.
Tomorrow is Saturday.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hari Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hari Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hari Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hari Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hari Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hari Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram 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 Hari 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 Krishna Hari Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram 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 Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama 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 Hari 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 Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama Rama Hari Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna 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 Hari Hari Ram Ram Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari 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 Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama Rama Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hari 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hari 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Hari 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Hari 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hari Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Hari Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare Hari 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Dear devotees, Hare Krishna. Normally at this time we do our reading call. We read Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita. It's 15 minutes into that time, but if someone wants to stay on and hear the Prabhupada Leelamrita, you're welcome to do that. If you want to leave, you have other things to do, we understand. But from this point on, I will share with you Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita, and we will be doing individual reading. The practice is each one of us picks up 1 or 2 paragraphs, 2 or sometimes 3, depending on how small it is. And then we read, and then we have a little discussion. So there's very little time left. There's only 13 minutes more. So maybe we can just read a little bit. Okay, we had reached the point where Prabhupada was assisting his godbrothers in Bombay. He had moved to Bombay to start a business.
In Bombay, Mataji, the paragraph is in Bombay Abbey Associated.
I'm scrolling.
May I
Okay.
share the screen, Mataji?
You already have it ready?
Yes, I just need to join as a host.
Okay, I'm already there. So,
Okay,
Bengal.
so Mataji, it's like you have to scroll more little down.
Yeah, we just finished with this homages and everything.
More
And
down. Little bit more down. It's the paragraph in Bombay Abbey associated with Sridhar Maharaj. And no, you are more below. The atmosphere is not there.
so have we finished with Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada meeting in Vrindavan? No.
No, we had to start with
I've gone too far.
yes.
Bombay, here we go.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, dear devotees, my humble obeisances to you all again. We are reading from Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. Abhay Prabhu, as he was known, Abhay Babu, had gone to Mumbai to start a business, but he was still keen to pursue the preaching movement of his Guru Maharaj. So he connected with his godbrothers and they were trying to do some preaching. In Bombay, Abhay associated with Sridhar Maharaj and Bhakti Saranga Goswami. Both sannyasis were highly literate scholars. Sridhar Maharaj was respected for his erudition in the Shastras, and Bhakti Saranga Goswami for his writing and preaching in English. Sometimes Abhay would discuss his realizations with them. Abhay also studied the scriptures on his own. His spiritual master's commentary on the Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as commentaries by the previous acharyas. While reading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 41st verse, he read that the disciple should consider the order of the spiritual master to be his life and soul. These words produced a deep effect on Abhay, strengthening his desire to execute Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati's command. And in the 88th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he came upon a verse in which Lord Krishna said something that startled him. Yasyaham anughrhnami harishye tadhanam shanahi tato dhanam tajyantyasya svajana dukha dukhitam When I feel especially mercifully disposed towards someone, I gradually take away all his material possessions. His friends and relatives then reject this poverty-stricken and most wretched fellow. Abhay shuddered as he read the verse. It seemed to speak directly to him. But what did it mean? Does it mean, he thought, that Krishna will take away all my money? Was that what was actually happening? Was that why his business plans were failing? He discussed the meaning of the verse with Sridhar Maharaj. Yes, Sridhar Maharaj confirmed. This might very well be what was happening between Lord Krishna and Abhay. So let us just briefly summarize. This is Abhay Babu connecting with his god brothers, both highly respected scholars who are there, Sridhar Maharaj and Bhakti Saranga Goswami. And Bhakti Sridhar Maharaj was very appreciative of Srila Prabhupada after he started our ISKCON movement. He met Srila Prabhupada, congratulated him, encouraged him. Prabhupada even took his followers to his mutt. I think it was in Orissa somewhere, and they were received very nicely. And Abhay Babu was had a very deep friendship with Sridhar Maharaj. Then he also studied the scriptures. Now, while studying the scriptures, he read that second chapter, 41st verse, the disciple should consider the order of the spiritual master in his life and soul. These words went very deeply into Prabhupada's heart, strengthening his desire to execute Srila Bhakti Sarasvati Maharaj's command. And what is that command? You are educated young men. Why don't you preach the message of Lord Chaitanya in English in the Western world? And then he came across this particular verse of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in the 88th chapter, in which Lord Krishna says, when I feel especially merciful towards someone, I take everything away. Now friends, relatives, everyone rejects because अरे पैसा नहीं है, कौन इसको संभालेगा, छोड़ दो, भाग जाओ. All your friends change their phone numbers, your relatives suddenly don't know who you are. All these things happen. And you have no choice but to turn towards Krishna. So when Abhay Babu read this, he was really shuddering. Oh my God, is this what is happening to me? Krishna will take away all my money? Was that what was actually happening? So then he discusses with his god brothers, which is what normally we do. We turn to our god family, our god brothers and god sisters, and of course our Guru Maharaj. And then Sridhar Maharaj said, yes, this could very well be what is happening. So it's 8:23. Would someone else like to read maybe a couple of paragraphs? Sharmishta, you want to read?
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. And my obeisances to all the assembled devotees, including you, Mataji. So, in July 1935, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati came to install the deity of Lord Krishna and to institute deity worship at the Bombay Center. He was pleased with what his disciples had done so far. Bhakti Saranga Maharaj admitted that much of the work was due to Abhay Babu, who had collected funds and established the new center. Why is Abhay living separately? Bhakti Saranga asked. He will be president of this Bombay Center. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, it is better that he is living outside your company. He will do when the time comes. He will do everything himself. You don't have to recommend him. Abhay had not been present when this was spoken, but his god brothers told him what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had said. These words of his spiritual master, with their mysteriously prophetic air, were important to Abhay. He treasured the words within himself and meditated upon their meaning. Should I continue, Mataji?
No, we'll have to stop now. It's 8:25, so we'll stop over here. But you can see how Prabhupada's life is changing. We can see very clearly over here how Krishna is taking charge of his life and the things are changing in Prabhupada's life. We can see all the twists and turns in the story of Srila Prabhupada's life. That is coming across very clearly. Anybody has read Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita before? Who is online? Kalindi, very good. What about you, Anjali? Have you read Leelamrita before?
No, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances or grace to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. No, Mataji, this is the first time I'm reading. I have seen that series, Abhay Charan.
Okay, that's fine. What about Jyotirmai? I know Sharmishta is very new, so I don't expect, but have you read Sharmishta?
No, Mataji, I'm having the books, but I could not read them.
Okay, that's all right. That's why this reading call has started, so that we can all come together and at least read just a little bit every day, so that we get that mood as well as we get the taste for reading. We start the habit of discussing with our god brothers and god sisters. That's the whole purpose of this reading call. When Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Maharaj disappeared from the face of the planet and went off to serve Prabhupada somewhere else, his disciples survived by these reading groups. So it is very important for us to come on and join in the group, share our realizations, hear from the others, and bond together as a God family, clarify our doubt, ask questions, get clarity, and so on. So therefore, we encourage everybody to come and share.
Mataji, I was just thinking, like, if at all here I see that Prabhupada was getting associated, but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was not approving him. So in such a case, he did not get demoralized, but so that means we can understand that he was having immense faith in his Guru Maharaj, and he did not take it as if Guru Maharaj was not wanting him to get associated with this, because he was very much involved in the movement of setting up the center. But when it was asked that why doesn't he come and stay in the center, his Guru Maharaj didn't quite approve of it. So in such a situation, he didn't feel demoralized. But anyone, I mean, like if it was me, Mataji, I would have perhaps thought that, I must have done such a, I mean, somewhere I must have faulted that. That is why my the Guru Maharaj is not approving me to.
No, that is a wrong conception. See, the Guru Maharaj always is saying and doing things for the betterment of his disciples, to enhance their bhakti, to help them to progress. So what did Maharaj say? It is better that he is living outside your company. He will do. When the time comes, he will do everything himself. You don't have to recommend him. So what is Bhaktisiddhanta is not discouraging, disapproving. He is giving him a position higher than all those fellows inside the mutt. You see?
Okay.
He's saying it is better that he's living outside your company. He will do. When the time comes, he will do everything himself. You don't have to recommend him. So when the God brothers relayed what he had said, Abhay was deeply, deeply moved. He treasured the words within himself. Why will he get discouraged and demoralized when he is receiving a very great appreciation in the form of his Guru Maharaj saying these prophetic words? Why will he get discouraged?
Yes.
On the other hand,
true, Mataji.
Treasured the words and meditated upon their meaning, thinking, what is the meaning of what Maharaj is saying? Something is going to come out of all this. He will do everything himself. You don't have to recommend. Better he stays outside. What is Maharaj saying? Don't worry about him. He will do everything. That's the meaning.
Yes, Mataji. I mean, like, we should not, whatever the words are uttered by Guru Maharaj, to take it. He treasured, because Abhay Charan was exalted person, but for persons like me who would be having very, I mean, like no wisdom to appreciate. So we should, whenever it's the Guru Maharaj's words, we should take it as a final thing and not have any kind.
No, we should not have any reservations. We should say, my Guru Maharaj is saying this for my own welfare. These are the words of blessing of my Guru Dev that he is saying like this.
Yes, Mataji. Yes. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you. You have raised your hand?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I just wanted to know, in today's class, Guru Maharaj read a paragraph or a page from something, I don't remember the name, lesson on bhakti, where he was narrating how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura asked his disciple to bring that disciple who has been chastised. Where could I find that? It was so encouraging, and
Yeah.
it was a kind of teaching humility to us.
Yeah, it will come in the Lilamrita also. It will come in the Lilamrita. Where it comes, that we have to do some research. I cannot pinpoint and tell you exactly where it is, but it is there, where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati encouraged them to bring the disciple.
Okay. Thank you so much,
You do a
Mataji.
Google search and find it. Okay, if there are no more questions, no more comments, we will end. It's 8:31. Time to stop anyway. Does anybody have anything to say last minute? Okay. Thank you all so very much. Hare Krishna. See you all tomorrow. My obeisances. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha. Kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Guru Maharaj ki jai.